St. Clare, as a young teenage girl, became acquainted with St. Francis of Assisi, and she was very much taken up with his love of the gospel, with his spirit of poverty and humility, and she wanted to follow him. She wanted to be a part of his followers. Her family was a very wealthy, aristocratic family, and her father especially totally disagreed with her wanting to follow Francis. But she snuck away on Palm Sunday one time. She was only 16 or 17, and went off to the Porziuncola where St. Francis and his followers lived. St. Francis cut her hair off. He gave her a heavy woolen garb to wear, and included her in his order. He put her in a Benedictine convent for the time being. He was taken up with her love of God and her desire to really imitate the gospel values. Her father came and tried to snatch her back from St. Francis, but she clung to the altar and wouldn't let go. And she finally pulled her veil off, and when her father saw that she had cut off all of her beautiful hair, he realized she was really serious. Her 15-year-old sister followed her very shortly after that to join her in that religious life, as well as her mother eventually became a Franciscan. And so we see that in Clare that she really lived these words of the scriptures we read this morning, that her one prized possession was Jesus Christ, and nothing else in the world mattered to her. She even asked the Pope one time if she could be absolved from receiving any privileges at all. She just wanted to have nothing except the relationship with Christ. It's a very beautiful calling. She committed herself to the Lord. She became the abbess of her community, known now as the Poor Clares. And for 40 years, she served in that capacity. They were very strict in their personal observance, in silence, and in prayer, just focusing totally on Christ. It's a special vocation, that kind of religious life. You and I have different vocations, but we're here today because we too love Christ. And in a real sense, we want to possess him more than anything else. Every single possession that we have in this life right now will mean nothing to us when we die. But as the gospel says, we will have the greatest joy and happiness we can even begin to imagine. Because if we love Christ and if we live our vocations, whether it's single or married or religious, whatever it is, if we do it out of love for Christ, the reward, as Jesus says, is eternal life in heaven. And so that's where we're directed. In the meantime, those of us who do not live poverty, we, in the strict sense like St. Clare, we at the same time value what the Lord has given us as gifts, and we use them for his greater honor and glory and the help of other people. And so it works all together, different vocations. But St. Clare is a model for religious life. Let us remember all the Poor Clare sisters today in our prayers, that they may continue their good work that they do. I know when I was in the seminary, my mother always went down to the Poor Clares to let them know I was having exams coming up or I needed some prayers for something, and they would always pray. And I used to think about that here these nuns who I never met were there in that convent on Rocky River Drive behind a grate, praying for me and for many, many other people. The value of their prayers is something that we'll only see when we get to heaven. And they pray for all of us, the church, for everybody. So today we thank God for the witness of their religious life and their concentration on the real value of eternal life. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.